Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Learning and Development Leadership Live. We're talking about fair recognition in diversity inclusion strategies. What does it mean? And how can we do it? And today is live, so if you're joining me here in the studio, live time, feel free to comment, pop your questions in, join in the conversation, because many minds are better than one, and together we can create a thread that is going to be super useful for someone who's looking up exactly this topic in the future. And if you're joining us after the fact, absolutely no problems. Exact same thing applies, but please hashtag replay so that we can see you as well. So, who am I? If you don't already know, my name is Lindsay Lee Hobson. I work with forward-thinking organizations to elevate their emerging leaders and create the ultimate next generation of leadership. You've got my own little tagline. And as an emerging leader myself, I believe that if you truly want to be making a difference and you truly want to lead and develop these emerging leaders into the innovative leaders of tomorrow, then you simply must be demonstrating emerging leadership in your life here today. And if you're following me here on socials, because we are live on LinkedIn, we are live on YouTube, and we are live on Facebook, you may or may not have picked up on a couple of the ways that I'm doing exactly that. But today's topic, fair recognition, DE&I. So I run a program in the metaverse, and recently we had a DE&I expert, Danielle Dobson, come in and join us, and she shared some really interesting factors and insights. But it is a really big topic at the moment as well. And if there's one thing that I really appreciate as an emerging leader, I know that many hands make light work. So make sure if you're watching this today, and Danielle, if you're watching this today, or if you're a DE&I expert and you're watching this today because the title has got your interest, make sure to comment and share, because you never know who from the learning and development and training world who will read your comment and you change the life of forever for the better, because they needed exactly the insights you had to share. So why is it a big topic at the moment? I mean, DE&I, diversity, equality and inclusion is always a massive topic, but particularly at the moment, as we're transitioning into this new hybrid way of work, it's still a really big topic. And if you've been following along with our learning and development leadership lives, you'll know it comes into almost every single topic of conversation as a factor, as a driver, as a foundation as to why this is something that's super important. Everything's about increasing engagement and retaining and developing talent. In fact, according to Gallup, a prerequisite of employee development is fair recognition. So if you follow them along, you may have seen them actually talking about that at the moment as well. And they really do teach you in coaching school, because I'm a qualified life coach, that the number one thing that must be present in someone for development is the belief that it can be done, that they can do it, that it's possible. And that's exactly where fair recognition comes into play. It comes into play in so many different areas as well. And if you know somewhere else, please comment below, because we're just looking at it from a slightly different perspective, which is what these L&D lives are all about. So what even is recognition? What even is fair recognition? Well, there's many, many different definitions. If you've got one, comment below, let us know. But it's promotions, it's programs, it's pay rises, but it's also just acknowledgement. And what makes it fair is the perception that it's done equally, no matter who, what, where, why, and how. So we're not necessarily talking about participation award style sort of culture. We're meaning that if X is done in a company and that particular thing is valued, it's something they want to support and recognize, that no matter who does it, it is recognized equally and in the same way. So in essence, what that does is level the playing field. And it instills that belief that that person can have the career development goals that they're looking to achieve, which then fosters a level of commitment in your business. And when they feel supported and invested in, people will support and invest your company in return. Hence why fair recognition is actually part of your D&I strategy, because it forms that ability for everybody to feel like the playing field is level and everybody has a fair go, so to speak. It also does oodles, and that is the technical term. Oodles are for the perception. So those who feel fairly recognized or fair recognition is at play in the workplace, Gallup reported that they're 8 times more likely to strongly agree that they have a clear plan for development. So they may be somewhere else in a different organization with exactly the same plan for development. As Yolanda taught me the other day, IPD. Can't remember what that stands for. Pop it in the comments if you remember, Yolanda. A clear plan for development. Even if they have exactly the same thing in a different organization, it really doesn't matter, because if they feel the fair recognition is in play in the organization they're in, they're 8 times more likely to feel like that plan is a good plan, is going to pay off, is possible for them, then the exact same plan in a workplace where they don't feel fair recognition is at play. And it's been an increase in numbers of study, right, of career development. It's one of the biggest factors for early career talent and graduates, or in essence, Gen Z generation, are looking for that when they're choosing a workplace to invest in, when they're choosing a workplace to grow and develop in. They're looking for career development, and fair recognition will ensure or help them to see that that is possible for them. So if your organization is currently looking at retaining and developing talent, and you haven't got a fair recognition strategy as part of your DE&I strategy, then this could be something for you to implement as well. So this is a LinkedIn Live. This is a Leadership Live. It's on LinkedIn. It's on Facebook. It's also on YouTube. So let's make this thread as valuable as possible for anyone who happens to be looking for support on this topic. And many minds make light work. It's something I really appreciate as an emerging leader. So if you have some strategies to implement fair recognition, or some different definitions of what it can be, or different ways to actually show that in the workplace, make sure you comment wherever you're watching this with hashtag replay and share those strategies, maybe even those case studies with us all, because you just never know who you can help and who you can pay it forward to with your knowledge and your insights. So here's a couple of, or here's my number one tip, I should say, which has two sort of sides to it for implementing a fair recognition strategy in the workplace. And remember, I come from a coaching background, so my particular tip is very much along those lines. And the first part of it is having really clear rules of engagement. Trust is built in many, many ways. And one of those ways is where expectations are met or exceeded consistently. So many ways to build trust, but one of them is when expectations are met or exceeded consistently. So if someone in your team knows what to expect when X is achieved or done, and that is consistently stepped up to in the company, so they consistently know that if they do this, they will get a thank you email, or if they do this, they'll get recognized by a pay rise, or if they continue to show certain behaviors, and they may get a promotion, and that's consistent. And everybody across the board fairly gets that, then trust will be built over time, which is super important, especially for your early career talent and your graduates and your new starters, to be able to trust business from their own perception, because it means they will, like I said before, they support and invested in, then they will support and invest in your business too. And the second point, or the second tier to my number one tip, is during the onboarding and touch points with your team, make sure that you are understanding what recognition means to the individual. So we spoke about this in the Learning and Development Forum, which I founded quite a while ago, actually. That's when we spoke about it. And you can have all the fancy smancy, gamified apps and rocket things, and for doing the certain thing, you can have all the fancy like team recognitions and the phoenixes and the fireworks and the unicorns, and it doesn't matter how fancy you make it. You know what the number one thing our forum members agreed was the best way to acknowledge and recognize someone? Saying a thank you in that person's love language. So perhaps there's a heartfelt thank you while looking them straight in the eye, or maybe a gift like movie tickets or flowers or something that makes them feel special in that gift category of love languages, or maybe it's acknowledgement in front of the entire team. Recognizing them in their love language is super important for them to be able to accept that recognition, because it's all well and good to have those fancy smancy things in place, but if it's not landing with the individual, then fair recognition will not be perceived to be in play in your organization. So yes, you can recognize people with promotions and pay rises, and of course people love that, but that's very hard to do on a day-to-day basis unless you want to go bankrupt real quickly, or unless you want everybody to be CEO by the end of the year. Keeping acknowledgement and recognition to something simple can be the most effective way. So let us know in the comments, hashtag replay, what are your ways of recognizing your team? What have you seen work? What have you seen not work? Let us know, because you just never know who your comment will help. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will see you at the next L&D Leadership Live.